Warm welcome back to the Information Security Stack. Together with me, to Daniel Gustafsson and Kim Hindart.
Hubba.
Today, Kim, we are going to have two separate topics which are very different in correlation to each other. They literally have no correlation to each other, to be honest with you. So I'm going to start. And I'm going to pay my homage a little bit to one of my heroes who unfortunately passed away a couple of weeks ago. His name is Bengt Johansson, and he was the Swedish national manager for our national handball team in the 80s and 90s, early 2000s. One of the most successful managers and coaches we've had in Swedish sports, just in general, and he was pretty much the forefather of all leadership in Swedish sports, and to a certain degree, and a large degree, in Swedish management just in general. A lot of people, including myself, had him as my idol growing up, especially when I started to dive in a lot more into the whole scenario of leadership, and I started to read the research and the papers, and I got a little bit more educated. I started to realize that he was well before his time, when back in the days where sports coaches and managers were just that, they were managers, and it was a lot leading by fear type of scenarios and mentalities. Bengt was the absolute opposite. He was one of the first leaders, sports coaches that I can remember, who started to adapt the method of decentralized command, and also making sure that he created a team and not a group, meaning all of his teams which he was coaching were player-led. They were not led by him during the games. Everyone knew that he was in charge, don't get me wrong, but he was, during the games, he made sure that his team was led by the players on the field, because he realized that really there wasn't anything that he could do during the games, because the preparation prior to was where he put in his job and his effort to make sure that the team understood what was expected of them. But then when it came game time, and especially during the timeouts, you could notice that he had a very different mentality than most other sports coaches around him. When he took a timeout, and even though the players and the teams might be underperforming a little bit, he always looked at the team and said, okay, boys, what are we going to do? And then he let the players decide, okay, how do we get out of this mess? And try to change our behaviors during the game in order to win it. And the strongest memory I have, I was like 12, 13 years old. We were playing Russia at the time in the finals of the World Cup finals in handball. And we were down 2 scores with like 4 minutes to go. And Bengt takes a timeout, and he does just that. He looks at the team and says, okay, boys, what are we going to do? And I remember screaming at the television set, frustrated like hell. I mean, why are you asking them? You are in charge. You're the leader. Change it. Tell them what to do. You are the coach, right? But what I did not understand, and what I've learned 25, 30 years later, that that was exactly what you need to do in order to get the team to buy into the change. They were in charge. The players are in charge of their own behaviors at all time, and Bengt was a pioneer in this field. And I learned that you can either be a dictator or you can be a leader. And most sports coaches, unfortunately, are more or less a little bit of dictators when they think that they have all the answers and they are the one leading the team, and all the players look at them and get the instructions from the coach. Hence, he or she feels important. Bengt realized that that's not the way that you will grow success over time. And Bengt was extremely successful over time. And most coaches can be successful during a short period. But Bengt was successful almost 12, 15 years as the manager of Sweden. He was unbelievably successful. And the reason for it was because he created teams and not dictatorship. So Bengt, wherever you are, unfortunately, he passed away a couple of weeks ago, 79 years old. Wherever you are, mate, rest in peace, and thank you for everything. You are literally the pioneer and forefather of most leadership mentalities and good behaviors in Sweden and in sports in general. Well appreciated person. So that's a little bit about that. Now to a completely separate topic.
Yeah. I was thinking about mentioning a bit, a couple of years ago, I had the privilege of visiting Estonia. So take a trip to Tallinn is the topic. Because I visited Estonia, and Estonia is by far one of the most successful countries, nations, to digitalize, to make a complete digitalization of their society. This is crazy because they have this amazing thing that you get a digital identity the moment you're born in Estonia. You have electronic digital ID cards that can be used to make a digital identification possible based on a government standard from the get-go. This is something usually resolved by other companies and private companies, a lot of other nations that has grown this. So Estonia had, of course, the privilege and the special opportunity to take this to get the digitalization going, since when they broke free from the Soviet Union reign, they had nothing digital pretty much. So you could start from scratch in a new age. However, Estonia has been crazy successful with this. Even if you compare them to other neighbors that you can look at Latvia and Lithuania, they have been nowhere near as successful as Estonia. So they had the same same base premise, same opportunities, but Estonia managed to take them and make something great out of them. So it's great inspiration. They have then a special visiting center where they talk about their digitalization journey. So it's called e-Estonia, a briefing center where you can actually just come and register a visit for free, and digitalization experts will take you on a tour on the Estonian digitalization journey. This is crazy interesting, and you can book a visit. It's free of charge. You just go visit the center during office hours, and you can have this. They try and say that this visit and this briefing is for global policymakers, political leaders, corporate executives, investors, startups and international media. So pretty much anything within the digitalization business is welcome there.
Yeah.
And I highly, highly recommend it. The reason why this came up was it's spring, it's nice, and my wife wanted to take a cruise. And then she wanted to find some reason for me to be willing to join on that cruise. And this was an excellent opportunity. So yeah, here we are. Of course, my wife is not as interested in the digitalization journey of Estonia, but she's more interested in the shopping in Tallinn. But that's another thing. The really interesting part is, of course, take the lessons learned they mentioned. This is a great thing. They pushed up some bullets in lessons learned on how to successfully digitize a society. Digitally minded leadership. Keep it short and simple. Transparency works. Shared platforms are quicker. Service design matters. Public-private partnership and startup mentality. And not only these points are, of course, pretty obvious, but often overlooked. And they have the practical example on how to implement this on a societal large scale, on a nation level.
Yeah.
Besides that, take the opportunity to visit Estonia right now, because in my mind, one of the greatest leaders I've ever had the privilege of seeing, having to know and read about in my lifetime is currently serving as the Estonian Prime Minister. So she's totally awesome. Kaja Kallas. Really, really interesting woman and great leader.
Yeah.
So Yeah, so that's also a huge inspiration right now.
So take that opportunity. And again, to Kim's point, the great thing about that is that they have practically implemented this already. It's not just on paper. It's not an idea. It's actually there. You can see it. You can maybe draw some inspiration from it, maybe.
It's one of the most inspirational things for people in our line of business I've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge thing. And Tallinn is crazy beautiful in the spring, in summer. So
yes,
go there.
Absolutely.
That's my recommendation now.
We will link a couple of documents regarding the Estonia platform and the whole idea regarding it, so you can read up upon it as well if you would like to take a trip there and actually, or if you don't want to take a trip, you can at least read into what they're doing. Get an understanding for it, because again, to your point, there's a bunch of countries that could follow their lead in that regard. There's a lot of countries stumbling around with, well, we need to digitalize and we need to do this and we need to do that, and then they have no really idea on how to do it. So maybe you can actually draw some inspiration from someone who has done it already and is well on their way to improve it even more. And that's the cool thing about once you get going as well. You have a leg up on everyone else. So everyone else is trying to catch up to you, which is a good thing as well if you're the first one to get going. And we talked about this before. The only way you can get something going is to start doing it. Don't think about it. Just start doing it. Start changing things. Start implementing things. And make sure that you kick that journey off. But again, we'll link everything so you can find the information that you need in this specific episode. Also, I just want to have that said, we have changed our name from City Network to Klura these days. So the address is klura.com/podcast, and you'll find the information regarding the sessions and the information that we just mentioned. Should you want our help or our educational help, you can actually reach out to us as well, and we'll bring the information stack to you, essentially. We can have online webinars, training sessions, whatever it might be in these specific topics that we are talking about. So if that's something you're looking into, feel free to let us know. If not, have a great weekend, or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on when you're listening to this. Have an awesome time. Talk to you next week.